friends on the dais and friends on the floor. I really don't know who all we're supposed to thank, so I'll skip the vote of thanks thing, just thank everybody. But I want to say a few things that maybe on behalf of this group of us who for some funny reason have been called gems, I'm most embarrassed. We know our faults and we are able to package it for an outside audience as long as people don't visit for more than 48 hours. But we know ourselves and we know our limitations, and yet we're very grateful to Vikas Anvesh Foundation and the Tata Trust and each of you who have chosen to appreciate what little we have done. I want to say a few things, and the rest of your 65 minutes I'm using. I came only because of Sanjeev. He's one of the people I respect the most in the development sector. He shoots from the hip, no nonsense. Calls a spade, not an agricultural implement. And that's very difficult to find in the development sector. We are such ustads at using 1,000 words where 10 would suffice. And so it's such a pleasure. I just want one anecdote. He came to visit us a little after we had got a grant from the Tata Trust. And he's sitting in our guest house and he says, "Doc, I'm very happy." So I said, "Why, Sanjeev, why are you happy? I mean, I'm glad you're happy. What's the occasion?" He said, "You won't believe me." I said, "No, I'll believe you. Tell me." He said, "You've got the same lousy sofa in your guest house. I'm very happy." So I said, "I didn't understand. What do you mean?" He said, "Whenever an organization gets a grant, the first thing that changes is the sofa in the guest house. You guys haven't changed that lousy sofa. I'm happy." It's still the same old sofa. Only a person who's grown in the field can understand these issues. And so I want to thank Vikas Anvesh Foundation and each of you who have appreciated grassroots work in a world that is all ulta-pulta, that puts value on marketing and gimmickry. You have taken the trouble to search out people in the field. And I want to appreciate that with the organization. I'm going to just throw some stuff in the air as well. Stuff that I have learned over this last 25 years of journey, which I think many of you will echo. Some of the dangers and excitements of being in this field. For one, I find that we are all defining development as making other people like ourselves. We don't say it. We package it in some high funda philosophy. At the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We go into communities, we look at people, and we say, "Oh, they don't have shoes or toilets or whatever they don't have that we have." And then we try to make them like us. And I think what I see in reading the book is people who've had the guts to think differently. To say, this person needs to be the best person they can be and not clone. I can see this across the 22 writings, and that's why I want to pick that up. I find the definition of the zoo, your definition of the zoo depends on which side of the bars you're on. And for us in community work, we need to develop an insider perspective, the ability to see from the other side and to ask the question from the other side. And I see this again in most of the writings in the book. I've gone through the book and I see that. I see the willingness to get the work done, use the donor when you have to. I totally agree with what ma'am said. Logical framework approach was a tool designed by Western donors to control the man on the ground. Well, it's a lovely tool, it's a lousy master. I remember once speaking at IIM Ahmedabad when I told them, you guys want us to have smart objectives, but the best things in the world are not specific. They're not measurable. They are not achievable. If you do only the things which are achievable, you're fooling yourself. They're not realistic and they're not time-bound. I asked the professor, "Do you love your wife?" Is it smart? Time-bound is a dangerous one for your love for your wife. And so I have moved to dumb dreams. Dynamic, unfettered, messy, and brave. This willingness to think differently, I can see this in all the projects. The willingness to break the boxes, the tabular columns that they try to squeeze us into, and to see need and chase it, and let the donors catch up in course of time. Again, I see this across. So when I try to read across, what I see are again some lessons maybe we can take from each other. One I notice is all of us are, the Sada types. A reluctance to be on stage and be felicitated, I think, is a healthy attribute in our sector. I see this across, and I'm grateful for this company. The second I notice is, as a methodology of working, this is something we arrived at in 25 years. It's so nice to see all of you arrive at the same conclusion. Our calling is to identify the unaddressed pain in society and then to share that pain. This, I think, is what we're doing. Whether you listen to the story of Jamila ma'am or any of the stories we just heard abstracts of, we are identifying unaddressed pain in our societies. Now, all our lives and technology is spent on the avoidance of pain. And that's why we are so plastic in our development approaches. But pain seeps through. So to identify the unaddressed pain, whether it be in palliative care, the child who cannot get education, the family that is broken up, a livelihood issue, a water issue, a gender issue, each of us has chosen to share the pain of the people we work with. We are privileged that people have allowed us to share their pain. And while we claim to have served them, we find we were actually served. And I think I would speak for each of us in saying this. The other thing I find across the stories is, while mediocrity is the name of the game today, a chalega culture, ho jayega yaar, kyun kar rahe ho? We hear this all the time. The pursuit of situational excellence and social relevance, in tension with each other. All good things in life are a dynamic equilibrium between seemingly opposite forces. Situational excellence and social relevance. Again, I can see this across the 22 writings. I'm sorry, I'm stealing your analysis chapter, but this is what I see in this. That each of you have chosen to do things well. Saying that chalega is not enough. Our people deserve better. And yet stay relevant socially. I see this also across. The last point I'm raising, what I see from the lessons across, is that good work takes time. I see so many young people coming to us who want to change the world in 3 years, preferably with 2 furloughs in between. Parachute NGOs. Parachuting versus rootedness. Again, I can see this in the work each of you have done. There is a rootedness that is necessary to be able to make a change, to make a difference. Superficial masala doesn't work. You have to get in. You have to pitch your tent in the battlefield. You have to stick it out through the good days and the bad days. And I was talking in CMC Vellore to the medical students, and finally a student stood up and said, "Sir, do you ever feel like giving up?" And we are supposed to pretend we are supermen. No, I'm very strong. So I said, every alternate day. So they said, why alternate day? I said, my wife one day, me one day. As long as both of us don't want to leave on the same day, it's okay. When we talk to our young people, we are covering up. We are trying to give them pictures of, we are sadharan lok. Simple people who got the luck of being in something bigger than us. And we are grateful for those opportunities. Finally, I just want to say that in the country today, we have a credibility crisis. We've managed to mess up a whole lot of stuff. But it's so good to know that there's so much good in the country as well. And while we won't make it to page 1, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because where it counts, across this country, there are lots and lots of good people sticking to the ground, doing little things. And until somebody like this VAF guys come and discover us, we are okay. And we stay that way. So finally, to end with Gandhiji, why we criticize everything, We've just got to be the change we want to see. Thank you.